My name is Paul Helgren, Associate Athletic Director for Communications. I want to welcome everybody to the Nancy and James Lab Creative Studio for today's news conference. Before we begin, just to run through a few things here so everybody knows the run of show. Following the introduction of our new women's rowing head coach, we'll have a brief Q&A session that I hope you'll enjoy with the coach and with Executive Associate Athletic Director Nicole Alderson. After that, Coach Bailey-Greene will be available for media interviews for our friends in the media that are here. And then finally, we just ask if you want to stick around after everything's done, and I'm sure Coach Bailey-Greene would like to meet some of you if he hasn't already. So with that, we just want to make sure everyone's ready here. I'll give you a minute, Noel. No problem. Oh, yeah, and silence your phones if you haven't already. I just did mine. Always annoying when you hear that. Okay, all right, we're ready to roll. All right, with that, we will introduce our Vice President and Director of Athletics, Brian Blair.
Good afternoon. How we doing? Come on, man, it's a party. Let's celebrate today. It's an exciting day for the University of Toledo, Toledo athletics, and certainly all of Northwest Ohio. I'm gonna let all of you in on a little secret. I did not row in college. I know that comes as a surprise, but we're figuring it out day by day. I think the secret to any good leader is hiring really good people around you that fill your holes and fill your gaps in knowledge. So one, I want to start with a sincere thank you to our Executive Associate AD, Nicole Alderson. Nicole was a rower in college, but more than anything, she's been a critical piece of this equation in terms of getting this program off the ground, hiring the right head coach, and every day talking me through the nuances of the sport, this incredible sport that's going to be our 17th sport here at the University of Toledo. I did have the pleasure of being a football student athlete in college and then working in college athletics my entire career, and I'm always blown away by the power of sport. We talk a lot about the University of Toledo, the power to do. What does the University of Toledo give you the power to do? I think Toledo athletics and athletic in general give you a lot of power. It's the power to pull people together, unlike anything else known to mankind. It's the power to generate excitement and exposure and shed light on things that are critical to us we pull together as an occasion. It's power to draw upon raw emotion and harness that raw emotion. It's one of the few things in life you get to go 100% at. And you don't have to worry about what anybody thinks, because you get to pour your all into it and let that raw emotion out. I'm gonna really harness that. It's the power to be virtually the answer to almost any challenge. So it's whether it's talking about your sense of belonging, even your mental health, we talk about the power of sport. And certainly as we talk about universities facing enrollment challenges and facing student engagement opportunities, it gives you that power. So that's why we're here today, to talk about our 17th sport and our brand new head coach. The sport of rowing stood out for a number of reasons. I think as you talk about Northwest Ohio, this region, the talent-rich environment we're already in with local programs sponsoring the sport, but certainly the MAC adding this as a new sport made the timing of this make too much sense. I think rowers stereotypically, for good reason, are high-achieving young women that come in, that transfer at the Division I, the lowest rate in all of Division I, that come in and really enhance your existing student body and bring a lot to a university of this caliber. I think when you talk about the rock stars in our community, and I know I saw Mike Diblin earlier from Toledo Rowing Foundation, but our Rowing Foundation, our Metro Park system are absolutely incredible here in the city of Toledo. So when you've got a chance to lock arms with individuals like that and create something unique, you need to jump on top of that opportunity. And certainly we had that here today. And then lastly, and the thing I've been blown away by since I've been in this community, is our downtown. I understand our downtown is going through a massive renovation. I didn't experience it before the renovation, so all I know is a spectacular downtown that's got all you could want in a major metropolitan. And then as you think about a sport, what could draw the University of Toledo and Toledo athletics into that downtown region and benefit from all the enhancements being made? What's a unique attribute of the city of Toledo that others don't have in terms of the Maumee River running through downtown? All these unique converging factors, all these unique entities pulling the same direction created a special opportunity. So once you decide to add the sport of rowing, and you first figure out what it looks like and what it is, then you got to figure out who the right leader is for that new program. You want to find a leader that's an elite recruiter. We're talking about a big roster, 50 to 60 young ladies ultimately, who can go out and not only recruit, but recruit the right young ladies to be a part of that. You need a leader who can sell a vision, who can see something others can't see before it's real and pull them along and make them believe in what you're trying to create, and want to lean out on faith to say, hey, we want to be a part of this, we want to be a part of building this. And hopefully you find a leader who enjoys all that Toledo has to offer. Hopefully somebody with Ohio roots. And the cool thing is we found exactly that leader. So please join me in welcoming, for the first time ever, our head women's rowing coach, Bailey-Greene.
Wow, what a welcome, eh? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody coming here. You took time out of your day to come say hello and listen to me talk for a little bit, so I appreciate that. Learn a little bit about rowing. I won't go into too many fine details of the sport, of course, but I will keep it as brief as I know how, which is not very brief, unfortunately. I talk to people every single time, the first time, about an hour each, right? So 10 minutes, we'll try. But yeah, first off, amazing to be back, fulfilling dreams. Right? Never thought in my wildest imagination that I would ever be back in Ohio. To be back in Ohio starting a team in rowing, my family here right now. I get very distracted by my family, of course, for good reason, especially my boys. But yeah, I just want to give a warm thanks to Executive Associate Athletic Director Nicole Alderson. I can't tell you how much of a blessing it is to not have to explain rowing to someone. All the nitty-gritty details of the sport, it's great. I mean, obviously we talk logistics and everything we want to do when it comes to forming the team down the road, what we need to buy, that sort of thing. But to be able to talk shop as well has been an absolute blessing. It's been a nice balance for me. Vice President, Director of Athletics, Brian Blair. It's been great. He worked at Washington State University for a little bit. I worked at Washington State University for a little bit as well. I made sure, just to get in the good graces, to buy a wheel of famous cheese from Pullman, Washington. I'm in good graces. It's very nice. Interim President Matt Schroeder as well for the opportunity. Once again, a pipe dream turns into a real dream. So it's been very exciting so far. So thank you so much for the opportunity. It's an honor. Back in Ohio, born and raised in Cincinnati, all-boy Jesuit school, St. Xavier High School. My whole family still lives there. All cousins. We have a deep rooting in the city of Cincinnati. Unfortunately, my mother will not stop coming up now. We've been on the West Coast for 6 years. She came up the other day, took a 3-hour up trip to deliver a coat because she thought we'd be cold as a family, and stayed 2 hours and went 3 hours back. Mom, you don't have to find excuses to come see me. But yeah, it's been great having family close by, to be back in the state. It's such amazing people, obviously from Ohio, but such amazing people who are willing to go out of their way to help. And then when you're starting a new program, it's really nice to have people who want to actually take some time to help you out a little bit more instead of moving on with their day when they could be. I always had a sign when I was growing up, even before I started rowing, in my room. It always said it was the only sport, rowing is the only sport you can win on your butt going backwards. And I was not even a rower yet. I was like 9 years old. My cousins rowed at Holy Cross on the East Coast. So I had no idea what that meant. I was like, that's cool, thanks for the signs. My dad put up, attitude is everything. Your IQ or your I will is more important than your IQ. All the signs you put on t-shirts, a lot of those. So when I first started rowing, it was just kind of like, it was just meant to be in a lot of ways, and I kind of got it. It is really the only sport you can win on your butt going backwards, and I fell in love with it at 15. I started rowing at 15 years old in high school. I was a multi-sport athlete. I played football, like most everyone in Ohio does, it seems like. There was 200 people on my freshman football team. They all dressed. It was incredibly intimidating when we all ran out on the field freshman year. But I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is a social thing. This is not so much what I want to do with the rest of my life or what I want to do in college. So I eventually moved into a sport that I knew nothing about in Ohio, which was rowing. I thought it was kayaking. My friend said, you should try it out. I'm like, I've canoed with my dad. I've kayaked with my dad. Let's do this. It was not that. It was much harder than that in a lot of ways. And I fell in love immediately. I hated it for the first week, and then I fell in love with it immediately. But I was in a club team. I got to meet great people from all around the city. It just broadened my horizons, strictly out of high school, which was great. But yeah, I ended up getting recruited to college, went to Brown University, rode for 4 years. What an avenue, right? I thought I was going to go, I was going to be a Buckeye for life. I thought that's what I was going to be. But I got the opportunity to go to the East Coast, to go to an Ivy League school, which is a blessing, to row for 4 years, and it grabbed me pretty hard. And then when I graduated college, I started coaching. I never thought I'd be a coach. My first coaching job was novice boys at my alma mater for $5 an hour. I didn't do it for that, clearly. I did it for the love of the sport, for the passion of the sport, and it hooked me. I was also in graduate school at the time, getting a master's in criminal justice at University of Cincinnati. I was also bartending at the time, right? So my hours were filled, morning, noon, and night in a lot of ways. Ended up getting a master's in clinical psychology, moved away from the sport for a little bit, but it never went away. I went right back into the sport full time when I graduated, when I was 28, and I've been riding the wave ever since. I've been a novice boys coach, novice girls coach, all the way up to varsity men, women, high school, to college men, college women. Obviously, that has landed me here. So it's been a ride. Thank God I gave up football, right? In a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, Toledo rowing, building from scratch, right? There's no better opportunity for a lot of people that scares them. For me, I've always really gone for challenge. I've always had a chip on the shoulder in a lot of ways to not only prove myself, but prove all the mentors in my life correct, that I know what I'm doing. I actually know the sport, and I've had really good mentors along the way, which has been really fun. But yeah, I mean, we have a great kind of support system here, not only in the people I've met, obviously the Laboutier boathouse down there on the Maumee River, it's great to have an infrastructure there. We're working to customize it. The amount of things I have in my office, as anyone in this room can attest to, is too much. I'm starting to move it out. I just got a truck yesterday. It's gonna disappear. I'm gonna have some more room in my office very soon. But it's really nice to not only have the Laboutier boathouse down there, but we have a trailer for boatings, that sort of thing. But just having the support of the Metro Parks down there, Metro Parks Toledo right there. I mean, I see the construction. I love construction. It means change, right? It means progress. A lot of people just view it as traffic. For me specifically, I see change, I see progress, I see development, I see future, I see vision. It only helps in kind of fuel my fire a little bit more to keep this going with really good people as well. So thank you, Metro Parks, for all that you're doing. I think it's a blessing to have International Park there, to have the restaurants right there. It helps with recruiting, obviously. The proximity of Toledo, as Brian alluded to, for recruiting purposes. We have so much youth around us, youth teams around us, Notre Dame Academy, St. Ursula Academy, Perrysburg, to name a few, to keep athletes local, to keep them close to home potentially, saving money potentially, but to give them an opportunity to represent their city, I think is a blessing. We're obviously not just going to recruit Toledo students. We're going to recruit all around the globe in a lot of ways. I always say, I don't care where you're from, I care about who you are. So recruiting a lot of good people, a lot of good athletes, obviously, from a performance standpoint, but people who value being holistic, people who value, I think, ultimately, being motivated internally when no one's really watching. We're looking for people who ultimately want to be student athletes, not athlete students all the time, in a lot of ways. But yeah, we're going to do information sessions on campus, probably starting the 3rd week of January, coming up faster than I anticipated in a lot of ways. When you're the only one in the office, we're currently hiring coaches as well. So we have some lined up. We're working on hiring coaches. We're working on buying boats. We have 2 8s and a varsity 4, as well as multiple coach launches for safety. We're setting up an indoor rowing facility. We're setting up a locker room. There's not enough hours in the day sometimes to get all that done. So one day at a time, but I think honestly, every single time I wake up, every day that I wake up, I feel fire. I feel like there's a lot of passion around the team, around the sport. I can't wait to keep building it the right way, putting the stable blocks in place, I think overall, but making sure we're not taking shortcuts. And I think we're going to build it the right way. We have the MAC championship, which is great. There's 6 teams in the MAC. We are blessed to be one of 2 teams that are Midwest, Eastern Michigan being the other. You also have UMass on the East Coast. You have Delaware, obviously Delaware, High Point University in North Carolina. So you have multiple teams in the mix, Temple and Philadelphia as well. You win the MAC championship, you get an automatic bid to NCAAs. You go to NCAAs, you automatically are top 22 in the country. To go from nothing to top 22 in the country, what a blessing. What a blessing to be able to say you could do that. And to be able to do it with people you care about. Can't get much better than that, right? They say, I think in a lot of ways, something that I've always thought about is that if you love your job, which I have never not loved this job, you never work a day in your life. So I want to just thank you, Toledo, for giving me the opportunity to never work. So thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, I want to be transparent. I want to be open. I want to be communicative. If you want to reach out anytime, I put my cell number on the website. A lot of people don't do that. I want people to connect. I can't wait to connect my family with not only the University of Toledo more. They've been extremely welcomed into the community already. To have my boys start school here, to go to the local parks, to go to the metro parks. We've been to 5. What are there, 19? Oh my Lord, we got a lot of work to do. But it's just so nice to feel like you're here, your family, welcome. Can't wait to get this done with you. Is really exciting. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, hello, everybody. I was telling Brian early, risky business giving 2 rowers the microphone for what you may think is going to be a quick Q&A, but I can take social cues, so if we're going a little long, just give me the look. But extremely passionate about rowing. As a former rower, and couldn't be more excited about this opportunity to start a program here at the University of Toledo, and even more excited to be welcoming Chris to Team Toledo. So you've officially made the move over, the cross-country move, you and your family. Has it really sunk in that you are the head coach of the inaugural women's rowing team here at Toledo? Why Toledo? Why now?
Why Toledo? Why now? I feel like there's, especially as an assistant coach, when you're an assistant coach, the coaching world, right? You're an assistant coach for so long. You're recruiting so often, right? You're talking about what you want the team to be. You're talking about who you're looking for, especially from an athlete. You're talking about being holistic. You're talking about culture building. And then you're also not the head coach, right, in full, right? So you want to bring in great student athletes who immediately walk in the door. But at the same time, the problem is you also aren't the leader, right? You also can only do so much. And I think the ability to not only recruit really, well, obviously, I'm always called the relentless recruiter. That sounds so like, I feel like I just love the job. I just feel like I love talking to people. So bringing people in, having them adopt, ultimately what we're looking to be and what we are, and then you do it enough, and then people get along with each other, shockingly, right? They actually are starting to form sort of the same moralistic fiber down the road, and then everything you've said is actually truth, right? Which I think is really valuable. So to do it your way, in a lot of ways, what you believe, we all believe as coaches, right? We're doing it the right way, right? I feel like, if you have enough maturity and perspective and have kind of carved the path that we as a family have carved over time, which has not always been, unicorns and rainbows by any means, it forms you to exactly who you are, and I think when you get there, you're prepared. I think it's just a blessing to be prepared here, in Ohio, back in your home state, and I don't like to toot my own horn, but I feel like there's no better person to build it from scratch to go all the way up again, because I've kind of done it at the bottom level when I've only had, at Row America Hamilton, we had 6 girls on the team. We were brand new, and we had no boathouse, and we had nothing, and we was literally putting indoor rowing machines in the back of a truck and running PE classes every day for months on end by yourself, right? No one's paying attention to you, no one's watching you. So it's like when all the cameras and stuff are on you, you're like, oh, I'm not used to people watching me, because I think you're motivated to work when no one's watching you in a lot of ways. So I can't wait to keep that progress with Toledo, in the home state.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about your path into rowing, formerly being a football player, transitioning into rowing, but that's actually quite common in the sport of rowing. If you can kind of talk about just the makeup of a program and how many student athletes find their way into rowing and the uniqueness of having both kind of that novice program as well as that varsity program.
Yeah, that's why we're running information sessions. A lot of people, regardless of what part of the country you're from, maybe they've heard of it, maybe they've had friends do it, maybe they've tried an indoor rowing machine in the gym, maybe not technically the right way, but they're trying it, right? And everybody knows if you've done it, 5 minutes, you know how difficult it is. It's not just elegant; it's actually very, very challenging. But if there's a chance, especially when maybe you've done a lot of cardiovascular sports, maybe you've been a swimmer, maybe you've done track and field. There's a lot of ability to, life balance in a lot of ways. You know life balance in a lot of ways. You know how much hard work it is, to balance school, to balance sport, that sort of thing. So you kind of get that, and then you get to college, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's kind of the same. It's now I just have to learn a different motion. Now I have to learn a different technique. And it's such a team-oriented sport that no one really fully stands out in a boat. You're kind of looking at the entire group, whether it's positive or negative. And then there's also the winter training, which is very individualized. So as you know, you have very much a team-oriented side, and you also have a very much like reinforcing side, positive, negative, with just numbers on an indoor rowing machine. So I think people get addicted to it. You start to do it, and all of a sudden you see progress, you see change. As you said, I was a football player. I was used to running 10 seconds at a time. I was an O-lineman. I was about 250, right? The amount of work that I did was 10 seconds, take a breather for a minute. 10 seconds, take a breather for a minute. They were like, do the indoor rower, and I'm like, 10 minutes? Are you kidding me? Like I can't work out for 10 minutes. But all of a sudden I could, and then I could do it even better. And then all of a sudden you pick it up. So I think for, as we do information sessions here with the University of Toledo, as former athletes or not former athletes start to listen, start to learn, they'll start to pick up on all that rowing is, but also more of like what kind of family we're trying to create on our team.
So rowing certainly opened up educational opportunities for you, earning your degree at Brown and then continuing on your education, getting a clinical psychology degree as well as criminal justice. When did rowing not only become your passion, but you really knew that you wanted to coach? Although I'm really sure that clinical psychology comes in handy with coaching.
Yeah, I always tell people on calls that, I have a master's in criminal justice, criminology, and also clinical psychology. And please, I like to use the latter. Please don't make me use the former, in a lot of ways. Like, don't get in trouble. Be a good student. Be a good person, in a lot of ways. Don't get in legal trouble. But yeah, I think for me, I kind of always, it always was in the back of my head, this is an option. I don't think it ever really left my brain in terms of being able to do it full time. I just never knew I could do it full time. I don't think it was from a lack of a lack of confidence on my end. I just, like I said, I was making $5 an hour at my first job. I never thought, full time, there's actually ability to do this. So as I started to, get master's degrees, as I started to, learn a little bit more about what makes people tick. I was doing therapy. Individual and group therapy with troubled teenagers. I'm not saying that the girls on our team will be troubled teenagers by any means, of course. Yeah, of course. But you learn how to talk to people, and you learn how to be real. And 15 to 22-year-olds can read you like a book in 5 minutes. And if you're not a genuine person and you're not real, they're going to realize very quickly they don't want to listen fully to you. So I think that helps in recruiting. I think it helps in team culture. It helps in building, and it helps it feel genuine, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, talking about recruiting, it doesn't happen very often that as a head coach coming into a program that you really get to build the program from the ground up. As you're going out on the road and you're recruiting and having conversations with people, what are you looking for in a rower? What values and what culture do you want to create within the Toledo rowing program?
Proactivity. Athletes who are proactive, who will go out of the way to be coachable, who listen. It's not in one ear, out the other. They come in and ask you questions. They love video. They love audio. Coxswains especially. We have, athletes who steer the boats. It's mostly audio instead of video. But yeah, I think having athletes who ultimately are genuinely interested in getting faster and getting better, and they don't mind details. They want an environment where they can just prosper objectively. They want a meritocracy. They want their effort to pay off in some capacity and for it to be seen. So I think as long as we're fair, as long as we're transparent, as long as we're honest as coaches, and it's reinforced through the support they feel in the community of Toledo, I think it'll go really well.
As you reflect on your journey as a coach from Yale to Oregon State, Washington State, club level even, what, in addition also to coaching males and females actually, what lessons have you taken from each of these stops that you will carry with you into this head coaching position? Yeah,
male athletes are different. Male athletes, in a lot of ways, you tell them what to do and they'll just do it, right away. They'll do it. They won't do it well or right all the time, but they'll try it. I got it. Their motivation kind of, in a lot of ways, trumps their ability very quickly. So you tell them what to do. First time they come back, Coach, I didn't do it right. I'm like, yeah, I saw. I watched you. Females a little bit different. You'll say, hey, could you try this? And they're like, yeah, but why? Tell me the nitty-gritty details, connect it all for me, and then I'll try it. And it challenges you as a coach. I always say females are smarter. At least from my perspective as a coach, but they're more intuitive. They ask more questions right off the bat. They challenge you to ultimately be the best version of a coach yourself. And I think that's why I've stuck in women's rowing as much as I possibly can, and obviously I'm here now. It's because it constantly makes you better and better, in a lot of ways.
Also, as you reflect back, has there been a coach or a mentor, you alluded to some of the mentors that you've had in your life, that has really had a profound influence on your coaching and your career?
I feel like as a coach, you take the positives of what you can from everybody. You also dismiss the negatives. I think knowing the difference, I think, is the hard part, right? Like knowing exactly what to take, what not to take. There's been, coaches I've had in the past that are super extroverted, very loud, love to like kind of lead by just being the loudest in the room. There's other coaches that are very soft-spoken, kind of let their technique knowledge, let their training knowledge, letting their kind of vision speak a little bit more to ultimately what the future of the team's going to be. So I think you really need to, kind of look at every coach, take what you can, regardless of how much time you spend with that person. But I think Steve Gladstone at Yale was probably, he's won more national championships than any coach in the country at the collegiate level. Was a mentor for me for a year in an unpaid internship at Yale. Thanks, Mom, for that one. Helped me out. But ultimately, it was a blessing to sit in a launch, a wakeless launch with him, and just talk about rowing and talk about what his motivations are to build teams. He at one point said, I was like, what do you like about rowing? You've been doing it for 50 years. I was 4 years into my career at that point, and he was like, I like rowing, but I love development, and I love education, and I love seeing people come together, and ultimately when they graduate, what the difference is, when they got here. They love the sport more when they leave than when they got here. So it's stuff like that where you're like, the knowledge of rowing will never leave. It's making sure that we're creating the positive atmosphere where athletes can flourish.
You talked about the MAC adding rowing and how imperative that is and the benefit of that as a rowing program and that pipeline to the NCAAs. What does it really take to win the MAC as far as, are you racing in 8s, are you in 4s, pair, or quad, a single? What does it really take? How many boats, and how do you win the MAC?
I mean, what does it take? It takes very technical rowing. It takes really hard training for multiple hours on end. I mean, 90% of what you're doing is training, and you race down a course for 6.5 minutes. It's kind of like a swim meet, right? You stay there for 8 hours and you race, 100. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a lot of time spent on the outside, kind of looking in a lot of ways. We have multiple 8s, we have multiple 4s. Usually goes varsity 8, second varsity 8, and then we go into the 4s group, and then we have a 3v8 and then a 2v4. That's usually how it operates. There's 2.5 8s that score points at the MAC championship. If you win the varsity 8, you get more points than if you win the second varsity 8 than if you win the 4. The goal is to obviously have as many people as we can in order to field boats in the MAC championship. But obviously we need good people to get there. We need people to get there in general because we're brand new.
Absolutely. So you'll be training downtown in the boathouse on the Maumee River with the Metro Parks going through the massive renovation that we've been talking about, which just happens to coincide with the exact same time their finish date as to when our rowing program is going to take launch here in August. How does this help you in the recruiting process and the continued success of the program, being part of that renovation and really rowing in the heart of the city as well?
Yeah, I've been at programs that are smack in the heart of downtown. I've been in programs that are an hour and a half from the closest highway. So I've been kind of on both spectrums. I've been in big cities, small cities, medium cities, here and there. I think proximity makes a world of difference. Having Detroit Airport right there is huge for recruiting. Having the youth teams in Cleveland, Chicago, Columbus, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. There's youth rowing is blowing up in the Midwest. We obviously want Toledo to be a rowing destination spot. And the Metro Parks are obviously helping with that by sprucing everything up for us, which is nice. They could have easily dismissed rowing in a lot of ways, but instead they adopted it and said, hey, you're going to be a focal point over here of International Park. So it's really cool because, parents can come down to the boathouse. I expect spectators to come down to the boathouse. We've got a bunch of restaurants right there. As we put in grass. As we put in grass, as we put in docks, as we put in all this stuff, it's just going to blow up the riverfront in a really good way. And I think flying the flag with pride, graphing our boathouse in a way which is very clear. It's like that's rowing right there. I can clearly see it from any highway I take or any street downtown. I think it's just going to become a focal point. And then obviously the rowers going back and forth on the river helps in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I know I'm really excited. It was one of the first places I went. Everywhere I've lived, I've been like, where's the rowing? Where are my people? So now we're actually going to start recruiting.
Yeah.
So really excited. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Toledo community as you begin this journey?
I'm just really excited to get started. I think I've been on the grind for what is now 2.5, 3 weeks through the holidays getting inventory, building equipment, kind of constantly. I'm on Amazon Prime a lot. That's what I've noticed. A lot of Amazon. But I think yeah, it's kind of seeing the rewards, taking the before pictures, taking the middle pictures, taking the after pictures and being like, wow, like look what we're doing together. This is really cool. But once again, I mean, it's kind of a similar journey. It's kind of like finding a spouse, right? If you don't find the right person, what's it worth? It's not really worth that much, right? So I think doing it with really good people, is kind of the biggest benefit of all of this, And I think seeing the smile on people's faces, obviously, rowing as a coach especially is a very selfless endeavor in a lot of ways. I'm not on the docks celebrating with the girls, when they win a race. I'm kind of in the background like, yay, golf clap, So that's going to be the best part. I mean, that brings you the most joy. It should as a coach, I think.
Well, I think we're really fortunate that we found the right person. So really excited to welcome you and your family to Team Toledo.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much. I appreciate it.